Down in New York, the mayor, Zohran Mamdani, has now published a list of names and addresses of millionaires who may be forced to pay his pied-à-terre tax. The tax is an annual charge on second homes, homes worth more than $5 million. The mayor's been criticised by some who say, look, what about security concerns? We can talk now, though, to Bradley Tusk, the venture capitalist who backed Zohran Mamdani in the mayoral race. Bradley, welcome back to the programme.
Yeah, hey John, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Are you, by the way, are you a second homeowner in New York yourself? Are you on this list?
No, I'm not on the list. My primary residence is New York City, and I actually don't have a second home.
Okay, so tell me, how would you feel if you were on that list?
I would feel unnecessarily humiliated. I think what's important to really think about here is there's the tax itself, and then there's the politics motivating Mamdani's actions around the tax. The tax is not that controversial, and I supported it because it seems reasonable that if all the different ways to collect revenue, it is one that is both the fairest and is not likely to cost the city much in terms of people leaving or anything like that. However, I think the challenge for the mayor is when he ran for office, one of the ways that he won is he promised a bunch of things that he doesn't actually have control over, like raising taxes on the 1% or free buses or free childcare. Those are all things controlled by the state of New York, not the city of New York. Most people, though, don't really distinguish between jurisdictions. And when he won office, he tried to persuade Albany to raise income taxes. He failed. They threw him a bone with the pied-à-terre tax, and that's fine. But the problem is for Mamdani, if there was no controversy around the tax, then it's not really a win for the base. The social justice that they're looking to achieve is feeling like the rich got sort of taken out in some way.
Yeah.
And if everyone's like, yeah, fine, whatever, then it actually doesn't serve Mamdani's political purpose.
Okay.
Because I think he has, both in the public protest he staged outside of Ken Griffin's home and now in releasing the list, he has sort of knowingly said, I need to take what's a pretty meager thing, it's a minor tax, and turn it into a controversy. If it becomes an us versus them thing, then the emotional needs and demands of his base get met. If it's purely something that no one really talks about, then it's like it didn't really happen. And so, he's doing it deliberately to try to create some version of sort of class conflict because that's beneficial to him politically.
Okay, Bradley, so you're a supporter of Mayor Mamdani, and you are freely accepting, you do freely accept, this is just pure crowd pleasing. It is vindictiveness and vindictive,
Yes.
is it not? And to publish a list of names, and I know these names and addresses are publicly accessible, but to put them in one place, it invites an adverse reaction, and that is the point.
Totally.
And that is precisely the point. Are you in any way, less admiring of Mamdani's politics now that you've seen him act in this way?
I am, and for several reasons, which is I was probably, like you said, the only person or one of the only people publicly in the business community who said, let's give him a chance. He's smart. He's young. Change can be really good. As a venture capitalist, I'm backing innovation and new ideas all the time. Why can't that work in politics? However, the thing that has been distressing to me is that there are multiple times now where the mayor has picked his sort of own political benefit over the good of the city of New York. So, for example, when he protested outside of Ken Griffin's home, Griffin was about to begin a new construction project in New York that would create 15,000 jobs. He now may move that to Miami. The construction workers and security guards and IT people who are now not going to have jobs owe that to the mayor. Or in the congressional primaries, the mayor backed a number of challengers to Democratic incumbents, and his candidates won. Great, except the U.S. House is about to flip to the Democrats. Congress operates on a seniority system. So if you want members of Congress who can generate the most federal funding for New York, the more senior they are, the more money you get. He just wiped out all of the seniority and instead put in freshmen. And so we're going to get less money as a result. That's bad for New York. Or this winter, which was the coldest in New York in 45 years, Mamdani, on ideological grounds, refused to break up homeless encampments. 19 homeless people froze to their deaths. That wouldn't have happened otherwise. And so it's fine to have a strong ideology, but when you're using it to either score political points or hurt the actual needs of the people you were elected to represent, that's really bad leadership.
So are you now disappointed in the character of the mayor you supported for office?
Yeah, I really am.
And has his character changed? Has it evolved over time? Or Bradley, were you just wrong in what you thought you perceived?
I think that I gave him too much of the benefit of the doubt. I think that I was hopeful from the discussions I had with him that he had really good intentions and cared about the good of the city and being a great mayor. And, what he's proven to be basically is a politician, an incredibly talented politician, a brilliant generational talent. But at the same time, whether it's in the UK or the US or anywhere else, if you ask someone on the street, what is a politician? The answer is someone who looks out for themselves, right? And they do so at the expense of everyone else. And that's what he's exactly proven to be.
All right. So your position is as clear as crystal. You disapprove of this policy of naming and shaming the rich owners of expensive properties in New York City. You thought you were wrong about Mamdani, but we started off with you making the point this is aimed at the base. So is this going to be popular among the people of New York City?
Well, it'll be pop. Keep in mind, in the U.S., we have a two-party system, and the candidates from each party are chosen in primaries. And primary turnout in the U.S. tends to be really low, like 10% most of the time. And the people who vote in those primaries are really the people with the power. And across the country, whether it's in blue cities and states, those 10% are people on the far left. In red cities and states, it's on the far right. And so we have ideologues on both sides of the political spectrum effectively dictating what happens, even though 80% of Americans or New Yorkers or whatever it might be don't agree with most of their views. And there are solutions to most of our problems, but the people who actually participate and therefore have the most say are the ones who typically prefer purity over results. And so I think that Mamdani is smart. He understands as long as that base are the only ones who will bother to show up in a primary, and they're happy, he will get reelected, and he's playing to them, even if that means it's bad for the 8.5 million people of the city.
Yeah, we've seen, haven't we, in recent primary elections, choosing candidates for the Democratic Party in the coming midterm elections. A number of those who are proudly calling themselves Democratic Socialists, certainly on the socialist end of Democrat Party politics, are coming out ahead. They're going to be the ones fighting for seats in Congress and in state races around the country. Is this going to do the Democrat Party much good? It's certainly energizing a good deal of support on the Democrat side, but what's the net effect going to be?
I think the net effect is they're going to win fewer seats because a lot of seats that would have not been particularly in play in a general election because you had a more moderate candidate who was not offensive to independent voters now is being replaced with someone who is a hardcore ideologue. Keep in mind, in the U.S., we think about things in terms of Republicans and Democrats, but 41% of registered voters are independents, whereas 28% are Democrat, 28% are Republican. And so in a general election where independents can vote, you have to think about their needs and their priorities too. And if you're giving them a candidate that they think is radical from either side, right? This is also happening when Republicans nominate MAGA people on either side, then they're more likely to turn the other direction. And so the Democrats will probably win less seats because of what they're doing right now.
All right, Bradley Tusk, a New Yorker and formerly supporter of Zohran Mamdani. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.